Welcome everyone to another entry in the Hyrule Compendium. It is Music Week over at Zelda Dungeon, and our big feature we're doing is our top 50 songs as chosen by our staff.
Yeah, it was a collaborative effort of over 30 different team members that contributed. Each person sent in their top 10, and then we allocated points depending on where they rank. And we got some cool results. And it was cool that we had such a variety of team members on our staff, because we've got like teenagers on our staff. We've got people, most of our staff is in their 20s, but then we got these old farts like myself that are in their 30s. I know, like, geez.
30-year-olds play video games, I guess.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. But then, we got some people that are well versed in the entire series. Then we got some people that only know like 4 or 5 games. So we got some cool results, and I'll reveal a few hints about what's to come. The feature is coming in a few days after this video. So, but the top 7 songs, 7 different Zelda games.
Okay, that's pretty good.
And in the top 14, 10 different Zelda games.
Okay, so we got a pretty good representation.
Yes.
I would say that's pretty good considering there are some games that didn't make it.
There are a few. And so in this video we're going to talk about the deep cuts. Like the songs that didn't quite make the top 50, but in our minds either they deserved it or maybe they just got a little overlooked.
Sure.
Some of the games got nothing.
Okay, yeah.
We'll throw that out there. And perhaps deservingly so, but they're worth an honorable mention.
Okay.
Minish Cap didn't get anything on the list.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
It's one of the weaker soundtracks. I think it has to do with the Game Boy Advance too. The actual like sound chips that are in the console.
Yeah, most of them aren't good to like listen to outside of playing the game.
Right.
It kind of fits when you're playing the game, but even then it sounds weird.
Yeah. The Picori Festival was the top one, but it didn't crack, I think, the top 75. So
and then some of the songs in that game is just from other games.
That's a reoccurring theme that we found when doing this list. That the newer the game is, the more it pulls from some of the older games.
Right.
So like when I look back at the A Link to the Past soundtrack in particular, I think almost every single song has been remade, whether it be in Four Swords Adventures, A Link Between Worlds, or have become staples in almost all the Zelda games.
Sure. And even in A Link to the Past, you have some songs from The Legend of Zelda showing
Correct.
up.
Yeah. The main theme in particular.
It's been a thing since the beginning of Zelda for the most part.
Yeah. So other games, nothing from Oracle of Ages. The standouts to me were Ambi's theme and Lina City and Lina Village. These are some that might have cracked my own personal top 50.
Yeah.
But I can see why they're not in anybody's top 10 and thus not in our top 50.
They're some of your favorite games.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the same thing. I think a lot of the music is like from Link's Awakening, right?
A few of the tracks, yeah. Not the overworld theme from Oracle of Seasons, I believe, is the same as Link's Awakening, or they're very similar. And that's also one that didn't quite make the list.
Okay.
So nothing from either Oracle of Ages, Seasons, Minish Cap, and nothing from Four Swords Adventures, which had very little unique music, actually. A lot of that was recycled from A Link to the Past.
Yeah, a lot of that game was kind of just like revisiting ideas from other Zelda games, but with this Four Swords mechanic.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No one's going to be upset about that, I don't think.
So what were some of the deep cuts that you felt were left out?
Well, we were talking about it before, and some of the ones I felt like we will reveal that Lon Lon Ranch did not make it on the list. And you kind of pointed out, like, there are a lot of Ocarina of Time songs on this list.
Yeah.
So it's, maybe I felt like one of those songs should have been out and that one should have been in, but overall, I think it was more the representation of the games that matter.
Right.
Than certain specific songs.
Yeah. Like, I feel comfortable saying that Ocarina of Time did have the most entries on the top 50 list.
Yeah.
With 10. And Lon Lon Ranch was not one of those 10.
Yeah. So while it's like, maybe I would have swapped out that, I think it's more telling that there's 10 Ocarina of Time, and then I think the next closest game is like 7 or something.
Yeah, Wind Waker, I believe, had 7, and but when I think of like Lon Lon Ranch is a very memorable tune, and this was something that it'll get into some of my deeper cuts. The older the game, the smaller the soundtrack, and the more memorable some of the tunes are. Even the ones that are not very good, you remember the tunes because they just play more often, and you don't have these 250 song soundtracks like some of the more recent games.
Yeah. So
like Lon Lon Ranch, and it's a very memorable tune. And when I think about it, though, there are 4 or 5 songs for me personally from Ocarina of Time that are just some of the best Zelda songs ever.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think Lon Lon Ranch is one of that. And then when you compare that to the whole series, I can see why that's like one of those songs that might have been on individual people's top 25 lists. But collectively, it's not even anywhere on our radar for top 50.
Yeah. That's one, it just sticks out to me as one that someone viewing our list might comment like, what, no Lon Lon Ranch?
Yeah.
It's just one that sticks. There's a couple that were, but overall, I don't think it's like a huge travesty. It's not on there. Were there any that stuck out to you?
Yeah. Speaking of travesties, so there are songs that would have been in my top. Some of the songs that were on my top 10 list didn't make the top 50.
Okay.
And I think a lot from Skyward Sword in particular.
Okay.
And I think this falls into this. I'm going to lump Breath of the Wild into this as well, where these are games that have these massive 200 plus song soundtracks. And people sometimes remember the 1 or 2 big songs, but then they forget some. And like when you go back and listen to them now, you're like, wow, this is incredible.
Right.
This is like, there are songs that I think that are not on this list that are much better than some of the, like the ones that fit in the 30s and 40s on our top 50 list. And I will name a few. The Lanayru Sand Sea.
Sure.
One of my favorite tunes, so relaxing, very memorable in my opinion, but it did not crack the list.
Yeah.
Some songs did not even get any nominations at all, including the Ancient Cistern. And one of my personal favorites was the Isle of Songs, the island that's in the Thunderhead region.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of those, like, you might not remember it right now, but then you go play it and you're like, wow, this is fantastic. And so I thought, and there's several others from Skyward Sword.
Girahim's theme didn't make it.
Girahim's
got some
theme,
nominations.
Yeah, the Lumpy Pumpkin did. None of the dungeons, I believe, made it. The Lanayru Mining Facility, the Earth Temple, Ancient Cistern.
Which is, I think that's kind of, too bad, because compared to some other Zelda games, like we did a video where we talked about dungeon themes in Twilight Princess, and we kind of talked about how they weren't so memorable. Right. I actually think the Skyward Sword ones are really good, though.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So, I think Skyward Sword got it does have a few in the list, and a few up there as well, but it didn't have the depth that other games had. I think only 3 songs from Skyward Sword make our top 50.
Yeah. So that goes along with what I was saying about like game representation. I felt less like, oh, this song from Skyward Sword should have been on there, or this song, but maybe Skyward Sword needed a couple more. When I think about the overall soundtrack, I think, okay, Skyward Sword is a better soundtrack in my opinion than Twilight Princess. But then I look at our list and there's another reveal. Twilight Princess got more nominations than Skyward Sword.
It did. Yeah.
Or more top 50 songs.
I'd go as far as saying, after like listening to a heck of a lot of Zelda music the last month and compiling this list, I think that Skyward Sword is the best soundtrack in the series, and it got very few songs on the list.
Yeah, I could agree with that. It's up there. I'm actually gonna say another one that is underrepresented. My favorite soundtrack, potentially, Breath of the Wild. I think Breath of the Wild needed some more nominations than it got.
So Breath of the Wild, fun fact, only had 4 songs in the top 50, but it led the way in terms of songs that are in the, like, I think the grand total was like 140 songs got nominated.
Okay.
And Breath of the Wild had more than any other game on the top 140, but only 4 songs in the top. So they had a lot of songs in that like filed in at like in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and hundreds on our list. There were a lot of songs that one person rated high, and then it's not on anybody else's radar.
Yeah. That might have to do with it still being new.
Mm-hmm.
People are still kind of working out how they feel about that game.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case, and I also think it has the Skyward Sword syndrome that I was talking about, where the soundtrack is so massive, and even more so with Breath of the Wild, since a lot of the music is sort of hidden. Mm-hmm. It's more like ambient, and it's in the background. Some of the themes stand out, but like I think when people think of the soundtrack, they think you're just running around the overworld, and there's in some cases not much music at all. It's a lot of nature that they forget when they're actually in a town, or when they're talking to a character, or when they're in a specific location in the overworld. There is a theme playing,
mm-hmm.
and if they listen to it, like isolating it from the game, they think, "Wow, this is magical."
Yeah.
And those things, like those themes, I think get a little overlooked. I think.
Sure.
Like I like some of the song, like Daruk's theme got nominated.
Okay.
I can't even tell you what Daruk's theme sounds like.
Yeah. There were some that were nominated that didn't make it that I do think stick out because of what you're saying. Like Cass's theme was nominated, but did not make the list.
Okay.
And that one sticks out because
everybody knows. That's one of the 3 songs I think everybody knows from the game.
Yeah, and you're out there wandering around, and then you hear the theme, so it kind of sticks out compared to, a one that's in a like Daruk's theme. I think happens in like cutscenes and stuff that are kind of scored, so it's hard to like. There's not like a repeating melody or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Korok Forest that got nominated didn't make it. That's one of the better forest songs, I think. And there was one other one. Oh, Sidon's theme did not make it, and I think that's a pretty great one. From the game too.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of deep cuts just with Breath of the Wild. I think some of the towns I think were fantastic too. I like the new Kakariko Village theme.
That was like totally unique.
Yeah. Then a lot of the themes, though, perhaps this is why they didn't make it, and this is going back to what we said earlier, they were sort of like remixes of previous themes.
Yeah.
So, like, when I first got to Rito Village and you hear the Dragon Roost theme, and I perk up a little bit, but then, like, because it's like a remix version of another song, it doesn't have that unique quality.
Yeah.
Same with the Zora's Domain. Same with the Goron. Actually, almost all of the major regions.
That can help it sometimes too. Like there's one Breath of the Wild song on there that is in the top 50. I'll tease it, but it kind of is it's a play on an older Zelda song.
Right.
And it's the highest version of that song, basically.
Yeah, right.
So it helped in that case. But like, yeah, the Rito Village, I actually think that one's better than Dragon Roost Island. Mm-hmm. But I can understand how someone would maybe like Dragon Roost Island more.
Right.
Because it's sometimes that's that original. It's the one that's in your brain, know, that nostalgia.
That was one of the fun things at looking at people's nominations, to see like the old versus the new. So, like Dragon Roost versus Rito Village. Spoilers, not a single person put Rito Village on their top 10.
Yeah.
Amongst 30 plus staff members. Yet, Dragon Roost was one of the most commonly played song on people's top 10 lists.
Sure.
And it's like they're the same song almost, but one's the original and one's, and then there are other cases just like that. There were some cases, you and I were talking off camera where we ended up merging some songs because they were eating into each other. So like some people put like Clock Town Day 2, and then other people just wrote Clock Town or Day 1, and so we put them together, Clock Town, or like the inside and outside of Stone Tower Temple, or Fi's Farewell and Fi's Gratitude.
Sure.
And so there were a little bit of a.
There was a gray area with some of them, though.
Yeah, there really was. Like, we weren't sure whether some songs were the same song or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the one that I think we thought a lot about was between the Lost Woods from Ocarina of Time and the Sacred Grove, or whatever that song is, in Twilight Princess.
Yes.
So I think, while one is the original, I think you said more people went for the Twilight Princess version.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's the exact opposite of the Rito Village and Dragon Roost example that we gave. So only one of those two made the list between Lost Woods and Sacred Grove, but only, and the same thing with the Dorito, but it's like, in one case it was the earlier one, in one case it was the remixed version.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I guess it's just a matter of like what stands out to you.
Yeah. Do you think, so we're looking at this, Ocarina of Time is the highest nominated game, and then there's, a lot of the 3D ones are kind of higher in it. We talked about this a little bit when we talk about Ocarina of Time music. Do you think it has a lot to do with like nostalgia?
Definitely.
Do you think like 10 years from now, like Twilight Princess will be even higher, and like Breath of the Wild and Skyward Sword will maybe, if we did this again, they'd maybe have a couple more nominations?
Potentially. It depends on the makeup of the team.
Yeah,
I
sure.
guess at that point. There are so many times where, like, one song that didn't make it was Queen Rutella's theme from Twilight Princess.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to somebody like, oh, Queen Rutella's, and they're thinking about, oh, that's just the Serenade of Water from Ocarina of Time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, well, yeah.
Right.
But so they it's a lot of that association.
Mm-hmm.
Serenade of Water is just a little ocarina song. It doesn't have a full theme to it.
Yeah.
But then it's fleshed out in the Twilight Princess, but people still recognize it from Ocarina.
Sure.
And I think that makes that soundtrack stand out. And I think it's one of those, it was the first like really large soundtrack, but it was not overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, like I said a few times, 200 plus songs. So people tend to remember some of the songs more because they play more often.
Right. So do you feel any of the other games other than those two recent ones we talked about are underrepresented?
Yeah, I have one more.
Okay.
And I feel Adventure of Link.
Okay.
So Adventure of Link, spoilers, only has one song that made the top 50.
Right.
And even this song, well I don't want to reveal that, but
I would say the song that made it isn't the one that is like the song from the game.
Oh,
is it?
Well, I okay, we'll reveal this one. We're not gonna tell where it is,
okay.
But the Great Palace theme, or
okay.
the Palace theme. I remember some staff members were like, "Oh yeah, I remember that song from Smash Brothers."
Okay, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's from Adventure of Link.
Yeah.
They pulled that.
I think more of the regular Palace theme in that.
Yeah.
But also because of Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
I've beaten Zelda
they're
too.
Very similar, those tracks.
Yeah, they kind of have a similar style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's the vibe I get from it. But that game only has 5 songs.
They're all fantastic, though.
I agree. I think that's one of the most solid soundtracks.
Yeah.
Because there's not a bad song on it.
I love the title theme.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't make it. I love the town theme.
Sure.
I like the overworld theme.
They're all, yeah.
And even the battle sequence theme is pretty good.
That's the only one that's weak for me, but
okay.
But I would say that's like a high ratio of the game. Like 1 out of 5 songs was picked. Like, can you imagine if that was applied to the other games? Like,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I agree that more should be on there. I nominated the title theme, so
yeah.
I wish that made it, but I get it.
Right.
Same thing with Legend of Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
It like half the game, half the songs are on it, but it's only a couple songs.
Right. Yeah.
How about the newer ones that only have a small number of nominations? Do you think it's appropriate? The newer games, there's Spirit Tracks, Phantom Hourglass, and A Link Between Worlds.
So I feel that Phantom Hourglass with only one song in the entry is fitting, because I feel that's one of the weaker soundtracks. It's one of those games where it doesn't have a lot of unique material. All the islands are more or less the same, other than a few examples. All the dungeons, including the Temple of the Ocean King, is the same theme. So when you hear the same music over and over, and it's not very memorable, or not really memorable, but it's not great. Neither of those are great songs. It diminishes the quality of the soundtrack. But Spirit Tracks, on the other hand, I think got overlooked a little bit.
Yeah.
It also only had one song that made the list.
Yeah.
But that's a much better soundtrack, and it's a pretty solid soundtrack all the way through. There's a lot more unique tracks to that one, as opposed to the Phantom Hourglass. And A Link Between Worlds suffers from the fact that a lot of the songs are A Link to the Past songs.
Yeah.
The few, there are a handful of unique songs. There's more than a few, but I don't know. I think the songs that stand out the most in A Link Between Worlds are the remakes of the A Link to the Past versions.
Yeah, the only song off the top of my head that I can remember from it is like the Dark World remix, Low Rule song. Yeah. But the ones that made it, when I looked them up and listened to them, I was like, oh yeah, these are cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just not, they just didn't stick with me for some reason.
Right, yeah. Even the Low Rule theme is a good theme, but it's like people associate the Dark World. That's that theme.
Yeah, that's one that didn't manage to surpass the original.
Yeah. It did steal a few votes away from the Dark World, but
yeah, they can live with it.
Yeah.
A Link to the Past got represented.
Yeah.
Pretty well.
Not enough though. I think it should have comprised the top 50. All 38 songs on the soundtrack should have made up the top 50.
The 38 songs, and then the sound and drama versions.
The orchestrated version.
Yeah.
Fan remixes.
Yeah, that would have just been yours.
Yeah, 50 Dark Worlds.
So yeah, that's a little teaser, I guess, at the top 50. It's going to be coming later this week, so keep an eye out on Zelda Dungeon.
It's going to be on Sunday, I believe.
All right, so
it'll be the last day of Music Week.
All right, so yeah, Sunday, take a look at Zelda Dungeon. Actually, take a look all week, because we're going to have a bunch of awesome daily debates, editorials. The Zelda Versus is coming back to pick the best soundtrack, I think it was. Yeah, we're going to have some stuff on YouTube as well, a Zelda challenge that's music themed. Yeah, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.